So we talked about the Mamdani thing that happened. It was 2 days ago. Mayor Mamdani came out and he had this speech against AIPAC and calling them monsters and everything else. To me, I think he's on point. I think what he's saying is correct. These these foreign advisors essentially buying their way into our politics, and it hurts all of us. You're against AIPAC, I know, because you don't take any AIPAC money. But before we get into that, I want to know what your response to Mamdani is on this.
So folks have to understand what he was talking about was the big money in politics, the corruption in politics. If you elect someone to represent you, you want to make sure that the way they're going to vote is going to be in the best interest of the people, their constituents. When they support a legislation, that's going to be in the best interest of the people and the constituents. What is happening is all these influences, whether it's big tech, big oil, foreign lobbies like AIPAC, they are purchasing our politicians through campaign donations, but let's call it what it is. These are bribes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's not whitewash these sins anymore, my friends. They are purchasing our politicians. So how do you know when they're voting that they're voting in your best interest? Because most of the time they're not. And you can see this actually. Look around. Our federal minimum wage is stuck at $7.25. Why do you think so? Because of the lobbyists controlling our members of Congress. Why are we in perpetual war for the last 25 years? Because the war profiteers are controlling our Congress. Why is public education underfunded? Because the lobbyists don't care for public education. They want the money to go elsewhere, to give tax breaks to the billionaires, give tax breaks to the corporations, to continue war. So if the government is not working, it's because the government is working for somebody else. They're not working for us anymore. So Mamdani was specifically talking about AIPAC, but I would extend it not just to AIPAC, but to big tech, big oil, crypto, AI, National Restaurant Association. These are all basically buying our Congress members and therefore, and our president, by the way. And so these folks are supposed to serve us, but they're not serving us anymore. They're serving their donors.
No, I agree with that. I have been around long enough and plugged into politics since the early 2000s when George W. Bush took us to war. Back then, I watched a lot of Fox News and not a lot of the other stuff. So I was more of rooting for the other team. As I've gotten older, had kids, kind of developed myself through education, everything, I realized how much is against us right from the beginning. They want to keep us poor. They want to keep us hungry. They want us working for peanuts. They want us to own nothing. And it's just, how can they step on our backs? So that's why I'm really excited to sit with you because of this. I've been forced to vote for AIPAC money takers, and I don't feel good about that. I don't really plug myself into Israel that much. As a foreign policy, it's not maybe high on my priority list because right now so many Americans are suffering. But I have to know a little bit about Israel because we are suffering because of them. We don't even have universal health care. So...
And I would actually extend it to beyond Israel. So I would actually talk about geopolitics in a larger scale. Yes, Israel is definitely on the front page all the time because of so many wars, but Israel is not the only player in this atrocity. Saudi Arabia is very much a part of it. The monarchy of Saudi Arabia, my God, if you really wanted to take care of an authoritarian regime, we should have actually thought about Saudi Arabia. This is the picking and choosing, not looking at North Korea, not looking at South Korea, but attacking one specific nation, not because of national security and national interest, but because of the whims of a foreign genocidal government. But let me tell you, right here in the United States, what you just said, we have a healthcare crisis. We have a housing crisis. We have a childcare crisis. Why? Why do we have these problems in the richest country in the world? Because too many members of Congress are beholden to their donors and not helping the American people. That is why we need to get rid of these corrupt politicians. We need to put in bold progressives, honest progressives in Congress who are arising from the people, who will help the people, and who will basically make a government that is going to work for the American people. That is why I'm running for the United States Senate.
And we need that. We need progressives everywhere. I am using this platform to try to talk to as many progressives, try to help them get their name out there, do what I can to be part of this as well. I want to know just, do you think progressives can win in this environment? I see we have Plattner next door, but beyond him, are we in a progressive wave?
So let me tell you, the short answer is yes. You're seeing a blue progressive wave all the way from Mamdani's win in New York City to Katie Wilson's win in Seattle. This is the year that people are starting to realize that the establishment Democrats are just as corrupt as the establishment Republicans. And they're just playing a chess game, which we're not even on the chessboard. We're not even pawns on that chessboard. They're giving us two versions of the same story, and at the same time, they're just answering to their donors. Of course, Donald Trump is a special case of the destruction of our government. Yep. But for years, the government stopped working for us. Why do we not have universal health care? That alone tells you that the government of the United States is failing to serve its people. So is it a year for the progressive? Absolutely. People are sick and tired of the corrupt establishment Democrats, the corrupt establishment Republicans. What they want are honest progressives. And that is the wave that's coming through New Hampshire as well. Just to put it into a little historical perspective, Bernie Sanders is a progressive, and he won the 2016 presidential primary here in New Hampshire and the 2020 presidential primary in New Hampshire. Democrats, of course, came out for him, independents came out for him, and Republicans came out for him. Why? Because he was offering bold solutions. He was not just fear-mongering, which tends to be what the establishment does.
Yeah.
From both parties. That's all they want. To put enough fear into people's hearts that they'll come out to vote not for them, but against their opponent. But progressives don't just say what's wrong with the other side. For example, my opponents in the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party are all corrupt. But we are saying not are they just corrupt, but we actually have solutions. For the healthcare crisis, we need universal healthcare like Medicare for all. For the childcare crisis, we need to have universal childcare. We need to help the parents get back to work. For the housing crisis, we actually have to build affordable housing and take the private equity out of the market. These are bold solutions that a progressive will fight for, and you're seeing this already in New York. That's what we will bring to New Hampshire.
No, absolutely. Did you see what the Senate did? Was it last night, I think, or the night before on affordable housing, where they had advanced a bill that basically limited private equity from buying more than 350 houses? And I guess they had a 7-year rule in there that they had to get rid of excess inventory in 7 years, and it wasn't enough, so they took it out.
I see.
So I don't know how we get out of that. What I'm curious, though, I really want to focus just for a second on the money and politics part that you talked about.
Yes.
Since 2012, I've been following the Young Turks. They started, well, I don't know if they started it, but Wolfpack.
Oh, yes.
If you're familiar with Wolfpack, and for those listening that don't know, it is a political pack that's trying to get 35 states to do a constitutional state amendment to take out Citizens United, essentially. Money out of politics and make it so if you sign up and you say, hey, I want to run for this seat, the government's going to say, cool, everybody else gets that too. Here's your money. And you don't have to get it from donors. Everybody's equal. That would be a utopia.
Wouldn't that be? There are so many ways that various groups are trying. So Wolfpack was very active. At the moment, I think they're not as active, but they were active several years ago.
I think they set a good stage, though.
They did. Another attempt is for each state to decide whether corporations can be donors. So corporate PACs then will be eliminated, which is a great idea. So each state legislation will then have to vote on that. So that's another way. Without waiting for the federal government, you're just changing it at the state level. So that's another potential. But let's say, just to piggyback on your question, so to get big money out of politics, do we all understand how bad it is? Let's lay the groundwork first. So each the federal race in this year, in 2026, each voter can give up to $3,500 per candidate per election. $3,500. That's a huge limit. I mean, how much do most people give? $20, $100?
It's probably not that much.
Not that much. So a lot of people don't even reach $3,500, but that is the limit. And that's a good limit.
Yep.
Every person, every voter gets to give $3,500. But what happens? People like Elon Musk come in and they give $270 million to their candidate. AIPAC comes in, gives millions of dollars to their candidate. How is that possible? And what does that mean? That means your voice is being diluted. Your little $20 donation that is supposed to support your candidate doesn't mean a lot anymore. So everyone should care. I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent. You should care that the person you're voting for is going to answer to you. That $3,500 limit is very important. The other issue is what we're seeing is when folks are voting in Congress, you can actually track who their donors were and connect it to their votes. If it's somebody who gets a lot of money from AIPAC, they vote for AIPAC legislation without even any question, like Chris Pappas. He has consistently voted in the interest of Israel. We're supposed to have American citizens represent American citizens in the American Congress, not a foreign lobby working on behalf of a foreign government.
Right.
Think about that. Isn't that almost treasonous?
Well, I'm not even sure if enough Americans are upset about AIPAC and what they're doing.
Okay, so why don't we start with defining it? AIPAC is AIPAC. That stands for American Israel Public Affairs Committee. That's an organization that is based in the United States. They endorse candidates, and they endorse candidates that they know will be very friendly to warmongering, war profiteering, give away money, unconditional weapons to Israel on taxpayer dime. AIPAC endorses candidates, and then they ask their members to donate to these campaigns. So yes, it's American citizens donating their $3,500 limit to each candidate, but it's funneling. You're basically saying, this is who I want you to target. In addition to that, it's not just Jewish donors. This is a misinformation that is being actually perpetuated by Chris Pappas does that. If people ask him, why do you take AIPAC money? He'll say, oh, I don't take AIPAC money. I take Jewish donors' money. Is that wrong? Like he's trying to make it almost like there's something against the Jewish people. This is not. A lot of donors to AIPAC are actually Christian nationalists. Do you know that?
I do, but that's because I am terminally online. So
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So this is, of course, Adam, and just step in.
Sure.
But why are Christian nationalists interested in giving unconditional weapons transfers to Israel? Why? So let's answer that.
I think that there's a couple reasons. I think Israel looks like them. Right? White?
No.
A little bit. No,
okay,
but there's several prongs to this. One is they look like me, right?
Okay.
And I think that's shown through the South African immigrants that Donald Trump brought over, but he wouldn't bring over anybody else. So that's why I stick with that line, right? I also think that there's a little love in killing people of color around, right? And I think I've seen that throughout my career in the military, not in the military itself, but just the way we interact around the world. I think there's a lot of other reasons, money, power, there's so many, but I want to hear from you.
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. So that should be taken into consideration if there was any sort of racism or supremacy involved. The evangelical Christians, they believe that war has to break out across the Middle East, like really bad war, millions of deaths. It will be Armageddon, which will then, I believe, lead to the rapture, which will then lead to the second coming of the Messiah.
Oh, I hadn't considered this.
Oh, yes. So this is a really interesting interpretation of the Bible. So Catholics who are reading the same Bible, or Episcopals, or UU churches or UCC churches, they don't interpret the Bible to mean Armageddon, rapture, second coming of the Messiah. They believe in the second coming of the Messiah, but they're not making these connections. That is why a lot of evangelical Christians and Christian nationalists don't look at what's going on in the Middle East as abhorrent. as war crimes or genocide. What they look at is collateral damage, because this is exactly what the Bible is telling them.
To serve that end purpose.
Yes. Imagine you're bringing in God, Bible, and guns. What could go wrong?
Everything?
Everything. What could, yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I hadn't considered that.
Yes.
As a religious, okay. I'm an atheist, so I don't even entertain these thoughts usually unless I'm trying to dissect somebody else.
So please look up, folks who are listening to this conversation, look up Christian nationalism.
Yep.
Evangelical Christians, Armageddon, Rapture, Second Coming of the Messiah, etc. And so let me tell you, Christian nationalism has nothing to do with Christianity. It has nothing to do with patriotism. This is some sort of weird interpretation of both our Constitution, our country, as well as the Bible. Christian nationalists were a fringe movement. They were kind of like the outsiders. Now they're no longer outsiders. They're very much ingrained within our government. So let me give you some names.
Yeah, please.
Mike Johnson is a Christian nationalist.
Yes.
Pete Hegseth is a Christian nationalist.
Absolutely.
And so that's Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War. Mike
Secretary of Surrender.
Or Secretary of Surrender,
Yeah.
yes. Secretary of Failure, yes. And then Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel. These are all Christian nationalists.
Wow. Out of all three of those names, Huckabee probably makes my skin crawl the most.
Oh, really? You have a little...
No, just because of the
which one?
history,
Yes.
because of what he's done in the
Yes.
last 25 plus years.
Yes.
I mean, even his daughter is
Yes.
the governor of,
Arkansas.
I love saying it, Arkansas. I'll trigger somebody in the comments. But I mean,
Yes.
these are really bad people.
These are bad people, but they're bad people, and they're going to support a lot of death and destruction, and they're going to justify it to both themselves as well as others that this is needed per the Bible. It is a really terrible situation. We actually have to take this very seriously. So there's one side, I will say maybe it's the triad of really bad situation. One part of that triangle are the Christian nationalists who believe in the second coming of the Christ. Another part of that triangle are the war profiteers who don't care about Christianity, who don't care about Judaism, who don't care about anything. They just need to make money. When those 2,000-pound bombs fall on Gaza, they will make money. When those Apache helicopters shoot Hellfire missiles into camps and kill hundreds of people, these war profiteers will make money. So they're one part of that really bad triangle. The third part of the triangle are the ultra right-wing national government of Israel.
Yep.
So these are Benjamin Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, who are basically using, they're fine with whatever the Christian nationalists want because, hey, what do they care? They want the Greater Israel Project. Benjamin Netanyahu and his ultra-right-wing government is not going to be happy just by taking over Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. They want the Greater Israel Project, which is all the way from Niles to the Euphrates. This is actually a really scary situation. They want a lot of war, a lot of killing, and a lot of taxpayer money from the United States to pay for that war and killing. The Christian nationalists are fine with giving our taxpayer dollars to Israel to commit those murders because they are looking through the lens of their terrible interpretation of the Bible. And the war profiteers are like, whatever. You have your Bible, you have your Greater Israel Project, as long as I can buy the next yacht or another private jet or another island, I'm fine. Do whatever you want. That is a really horrible triangle that the American public needs to be aware of. And why should we care? There are three reasons why we should care. One is killing people is morally reprehensible. War crimes are morally reprehensible. That is one reason. The second reason is it's fiscally irresponsible. Trillions of dollars going to war is trillions of dollars not funding our public education, not funding our rural hospitals, not funding our healthcare. That's one of the reasons we don't have healthcare, not funding our own communities. So fiscally irresponsible. And third, it's actually illegal because the federal government laws are very clear. Any foreign entity that is violating human rights, like Israel or Saudi Arabia or UAE, should not receive U.S.-made weapons. So my friends, whatever rocks your boat, you should look at it. Is it morally reprehensible? Yes. Is it fiscally irresponsible? Yes. Is it just plain illegal by American standards and humanitarian law? Yes. So we should not have these wars. We should not support these wars.
It's amazing to me because I know there's going to be a lot of hate watchers that listen to what you just said, and they're going to be like, wow, she's a dirty hippie.
Well, what's a dirty hippie? I've never heard that one yet.
Okay,
now you are going
to... back in the 70s when anti-war, well, actually go further back, Vietnam and all of that, and the hippies revolted and all of that. And then everybody decided we love war, we love killing people, we love money. Okay, let me back up a second because...
Do you see how I'm dressed?
No, I do.
Do you know that I'm a scientist?
Yes.
I follow data. I follow history. I follow present. I follow information. I'm like the most analytical person out there. So for me to be called a dirty hippie will be very interesting.
Right? No, and I'm the opposite. But when I say that, I just think of how those people were treated when they were against war, when they were against a lot of the things that you had just described. And I want to back up because most people know, but there'll be some new viewers that don't know. I did 20 years active duty in the Air Force. I did almost 10 years overseas. Oh, it was my pleasure. And then I did a lot of cool different assignments, but one of the things I did was combat communications. Actually, it was pretty much the primary thing I did. I did it here in the States where so I was in Georgia and our responsibility was the AOR in the Middle East. And if you were in Oklahoma, it was South America. And then I was over in Korea where I did that as well. And I never felt good about killing people or even being a part of that. I actually agree with you on all fronts here because I think war is bad. I think a military should be used sparingly and as a very last resort. But what I do like that we did, and this is why I spent a lot of time overseas, I enjoyed the humanitarian part. The airlifts to save people that were destroyed through a typhoon in the Philippines or whatever. I did spend a year in Saudi Arabia, and I know that, these countries are not great, and people just want to make money off of death. And I think it's one of the worst things possible. We need to be taking care of Americans right here first. So I'll die on that hill. They keep on saying America first, but we're not doing that at all. We got Venezuela, Cuba. There's so many things that are going wrong.
Mm-hmm. War profiteering first. Yes. Profit over people.
It's frustrating. I retired in 2017, 10 days after Donald Trump took office, because I saw in 2015 and 16 that he had a very high likelihood of winning, and I never wanted to serve underneath him.
I see.
So I retired and moved on. Wow, it's thinking about the Iran war, thinking about Israel. How do we get out of this stuff? I think that's another thing that a lot of people want to talk about.
So
please, if you want to take it, go ahead.
Some of the rhetoric that we hear is Iran has an authoritarian regime, and so we had to go in. Okay, let's just parse through that. Again, I told you I'm very analytical.
No, please, I'm not. I ride on vibes, so
we'll make a good team. Okay. Does Iran have an authoritarian regime? Absolutely. Yeah. But so does about 63 other nations in this world. Is it our duty to go and take out all the authoritarian regimes in this world?
I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. North Korea is actually a much more of an imminent threat to us than Iran. Saudi Arabia has been actually also an authoritarian regime. They caused a lot of death and destruction in Yemen.
Yeah.
By also purchasing our weapons.
Absolutely.
So that particular line of thought is a very weak line. And again, the United States should be America first, not policing the world. And we have seen what has happened over the last 25 years. We tried building Iraq. We tried rebuilding Afghanistan. What happened? Nothing.
A failure, $20 trillion down the drain, and so many American lives.
Yes.
I'm from that era.
Right. So why are we doing this all over again? Because we have learned the lesson. not to proceed. And when I say we, I mean the American people.
Yes.
But the war profiteers have learned another different lesson. That is, wow, this is actually really profitable. We'll just go in, bomb some people, create havoc, make a lot of money from each of those bomb drops, each of those missile shots, each of those operations. So they have learned their lesson and they're moving forward and they're selling us the same story. So now let's look at another thing. Was Iran an imminent threat to the United States? If you want to follow American intelligence, then you should follow American intelligence, which says Iran was not an imminent threat. This was something that was made up by Benjamin Netanyahu, and it has been going on for the last 40 years. Yeah. He kept saying Iran is going to attack in 2 weeks, 6 months, 3 weeks, 5 days. Constantly that time frame was changing. And the language is so, it's kind of scary. Like, oh my God, they're going to destroy the world. They're going to attack the United States. They want death to USA. This is Benjamin Netanyahu using an authoritarian regime's rhetoric, but to scare us and to get us to attack Iran. George Bush, regardless of how, the younger, regardless how incompetent he was, at least he listened to his own war hawks and did not attack Iran. Neither did Obama, neither did Trump 1.0, because there was some checks and balances. There was some
adults in the room.
There were some adults in the room. Neither did Biden. But now comes Trump 2.0. Those adults are no longer in the room. Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, who are actually sometimes being driven by ideology. For example, Pete Hegseth, his Christian nationalism, sometimes it's war profiteers. Now we have gone in. We should never have attacked Iran.
Yeah.
The United States and Israel are two nuclear powers. They attacked a non-nuclear power. Just imagine. And when they talk about Iran as an imminent threat, we have the biggest military in the world telling us that Iran is a threat to us. It's like telling an elephant that the mosquito is going to be hurting you.
Right.
I mean, seriously, the United States has the biggest military. We have over 700 bases across the world. We are a nuclear power. And now they're telling us that Iran is a threat. Of course, it's also a lie because of American intelligence. We should never have gone into Iran. And now look what has happened. The conservative estimate is about $100 billion have been spent since February 28th when the United States attacked Iran.
Oh, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
And it's most probably the tip of the iceberg, absolutely. And there's no end in sight. Our gas prices have gone up. Fertilizers are not coming in. Right here in New Hampshire, I've heard from farmers, and the same stories are coming out from across the country. Fertilizer prices have gone up.
Yep.
This is springtime. This is when they're supposed to plant their crops.
A lot of people are going to starve over the next couple of years.
And we're seeing this in Africa. We're seeing this in Asia.
Yep.
These are poor people, poor countries. And now they're going to hurt so much, the farming. For what? Why? We lost 13 service members, actually 15 service members in this war.
Yeah.
15 American families buried their loved ones. 15. For what? Over 300 service members have been injured. Over 2,000 people have been killed in Iran. And they are the threat to us. We have killed over 2,000 people. And while we're distracted with Iran, Benjamin Netanyahu continues to attack Lebanon and Gaza.
Yep. Yeah, they're out of control. There's nothing we can do. It seems to rein them in.
Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal.
Always has been.
Yes. Donald Trump is a war criminal.
Yes.
These two thugs are basically pulled us into a war with a country that we should never have attacked. And now let's bring it back to New Hampshire. I'm the only one who does not take AIPAC money. I'm the only U.S. Senate candidate that does not take money from big tech, big oil, crypto, AI. All the other Democratic and Republican candidates like Chris Pappas, John Sununu, Scott Brown, they are compromised politicians. They're owned by either big tech, big oil, crypto, AI, AIPAC, DMFI, which is another foreign lobby, stands for Democratic Majority for Israel. So if you care about peace and prosperity, if you want to stop the taxpayer dollars to going to death and destruction with no advantage for us, then the folks across New Hampshire have to vote for me. I'm like the only person who is not going to be in the pockets of all these corrupt
I'm kind of glad
corporations.
you're bringing this up, because I would like to switch gears away from Israel just for a few at least. And I want to talk about your actual campaign itself. And I've read your website. I agree with you on most things. I mean, I think if not all, I'm a progressive through and through as well. I have noticed just from the outsider looking in that you seem to be barred from a lot of events, or at least entering into places where Chris Pappas is. I'm starting to think and believe that the party at large, the Democrat Party here in New Hampshire, and maybe even above that, is boxing you out. They don't want you to win. You had no stage time at the convention that I saw.
I was the last speaker.
You were the last one? Oh, I had to leave before that?
Most people left.
Yes.
There were like a handful. It was intentional. I went at 4:30.
Wow.
They wanted to make sure that every single person was gone, and it was just maybe me and the person who's going to lock up.
I've been so nervous to do this podcast with you because I've been thinking a lot about this. Not because I think that there's going to be blowback or anything. I could care less about that. But I'm just nervous because this is my one shot to sit with somebody like you. And they're going to try to stifle this episode. They're going to try to stifle this conversation. And I don't even know what's going to come down the pipe for me. You know, am I going to be kind of ostracized from the party? But I want to know from your point of view, because it's done to you. How does that feel? How do you get beyond it? Like, all that.
So I have been a lifelong Democrat. I've gone and helped Democrats win. But it almost felt like, why were we always given the option of the lesser of two evils?
Yeah.
Just because somebody's a Democrat, I have to vote for them, even though they don't have a good voting record, even though they are not answering to the people, because the other side we're told, is so much worse. And so the lesser of two evils concept is really terrible, because the lesser of two evils is still evil. So in 2024, after this horrific loss to Donald Trump, it appeared from outside that the Democratic Party is extremely corrupt, that they did not have a real primary.
Yep.
Biden wasn't even on the ballot in January of 2024. And then he becomes the presumptive nominee, and then suddenly, switcheroo, donors say he's out, Kamala Harris is in. Is that democracy?
That whole thing was absolutely mind-boggling.
So, and then,
yes.
So how are we fighting Donald Trump? How are we protecting democracy if we are offering this sort of party insider decisions and coronations at the national level? That is terrible. So in 2024, I was like, oh my God, the party looks really corrupt. So in 2025, I went inside. I have a few positions. And inside, trust me, it looks even more corrupt from the inside. It's like, who knows who? Who kisses the ring of the Democratic Party? So yes, are they boxing me out? Absolutely. Did I think they were going to lay out the red carpet? No, absolutely not. I'm not there thinking this is if it's a corrupt party, I know what I'm getting up against.
Yeah.
So, but let me backtrack, because I like to always put things into perspective. For the last 50 years, the New Hampshire politics has been controlled by two families, the Shaheen family and the Sununu family. Just think about that. We are a small state, but we still have over 1 million people. Why are there two families controlling our politics? Why is politics a family business in New Hampshire? That alone is undemocratic. The Shaheen family has to go. The Sununu family has to go. No more Shaheens, no more Sununus, and no more of their influence on our politics. That has to end in 2026. Both of those families have used their positions to make a lot of money for themselves. Both of them. The Shaheen family and the Democrats might point to the Republicans might point to the Democrats, but both of those families and their underlings and their little friendship circle has made a lot of money. That has to go. This is almost like a mafia, cartelish behavior. The second thing is, the concept of career politicians is undemocratic. You go in, you serve a couple of terms, you haven't fixed the problem, out. That's it. That is democracy. Why is it like year after year after year, same names being recycled over and over again. New Hampshire people should absolutely take control of their politics, whether it's a Democrat, a Republican, or independent. We should not allow these two families to control us. The New Hampshire Democratic Party is under the control of just a handful of people. I belong to the New Hampshire Democratic Party, but when I say the party establishment, I'm talking about just a few handful of people, just like the DNC is under the control of just a few people. Donors want these people in power. They answer to the donors. They're very good to the donors.
Yeah.
The donors give these candidates a lot of money, these politicians a lot of money. So this is a cycle that keeps perpetuating. And then we're wondering, wait, why is it that we are still stuck at $7.25 federal minimum wage? Why do we still not have health care? Why do we still not have childcare? Well, because these party establishment of the Republicans and Democrats are answering to the same donors. So yes, is the party trying to keep me out? Absolutely. Am I going to be swayed by it? No, I'm fighting war profiteers, my friend. I'm fighting AIPAC. I'm fighting Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm fighting Donald Trump. What will Ray Buckley or little establishment Democrats in New Hampshire, why would they sway me? I'm coming from the people, and the people want an end to all this corruption in our state, in our party, across the world. That's what is motivating me.
And I'm glad to hear all that. I honestly, I feel the energy from that, because here in my family, there's 6 of us. That's 6 votes. And the other night we were talking just around the table, and we've all made a commitment that we would not vote for anybody taking AIPAC money. Unless, we just literally had no choice, because I will always vote for a Democrat over a Republican. It just makes all the sense in the world, because Democrats, from my point of view, and I know the small group of people that you're referring to, but the Democrats at large.
Yes, at large, the House Democrats, the Senate Democrats, right here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I feel
fantastic.
Like
yes,
we're in the same team.
We are the progressive base. So yes, so let me make a distinction between that, because just to clarify it,
sure,
so people don't misunderstand, the Democratic Party is split.
Yes.
So there's the base that are good people, base that wants universal health care, that wants well-funded rural hospitals, that want well-funded public education. Those are good people. And they want our tax dollars for peace and prosperity, not for war. Just a few people on the top, the New Hampshire Democratic Party or the DNC, are basically corrupt. And that's what we call the establishment Democrats.
Right.
So I can call it the progressive Democrats, meaning the base, or the base Democrats, or however you want, versus establishment Democrats or corporate Democrats. Some of these folks call themselves other words, but basically that's what I mean. So there's a distinction. Yes, the party, most of the members of the party, millions of us, are good people. We just have to get rid of that leadership.
We need to derail those kind of activities. Most people want to buy a house. Most people just want to live a life. I miss being bored with politics.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to go back to that. I was telling somebody the other day, like, after November, I hope that I don't have to do as many political sit downs. I mean, not that I don't enjoy them, but like, I want to talk to scientists. I want to talk to engineers. I want to talk to people that are changing our world. Mm-hmm. But right now, I feel so exasperated with what's going on. I need more progressives in Congress. Yes. I need more AOCs. I need more Bernies. I need
more Karishmas.
More Karishmas. I need all of them at the table to bring those ideas. I guess what I'm saying is I need smart people to represent me in Congress, because I also think of like the Tommy Tubervilles and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. And I don't want those people representing me. And I don't think anybody else does, except for maybe a small little segment. So it is a breath of fresh air that you're running, that you're an option in the primary. The primary is September 8th. A lot of people are going to have to choose. Do you have an idea of maybe like where you're floating at for support or anything like that?
As in polls?
Well, I know there hasn't been like a lot of polls, but I just mean like, what's the energy like out there?
Oh, amazing. People who have checked out of the Democratic Party, who might be left-leaning, people who have decided that the Democratic Party is just too corrupt. They have no intention of supporting the Democrats. They're coming out. So some of these folks have basically checked out of the political arena. They just think their votes don't count because it's two corrupt options. folks like those are coming out. Folks who have also moved into third-party options because they felt there's nothing's going to save either of the parties, and they've joined groups like DSA, PSL, Green Party. They're coming out. Young and old are coming out, rich and poor. So, and I have, there was a gentleman the other day, he's an Iraq war veteran and he's a libertarian. He came to one of my town halls and he said he's never voted for a Democrat before, but he's voting for me.
I like that.
I like that.
I like that a lot. Being a veteran and knowing kind of how that community operates, there's not a lot of left-leaning veterans that I'm aware of.
Oh, there. Oh,
I mean, there are. I don't mean to say that they're not, but I'm saying
Yes.
65% of veterans came out for Donald Trump in 24, which was a really hard
Why
thing.
did they do that? Unfortunately, they believed his rhetoric, but what were they? A lot of them wanted peace.
It's actually a little bit deeper. So when I joined the Air Force in 1996, I got told as an 18-year-old that I was a conservative.
Oh, you were told.
I was a Republican because every full-grown adult male serving in that building was a full-fledged Republican.
I see. Okay.
And so was I
see.
according to them.
I see.
And everybody else that joined, they were also Republicans. That's instilled in veterans at a very early stage when you're 18, 19, 20, whatever you come in. And then you sit with that and you go to different assignments and it gets reinforced by others. And I had to wait until 2012 for my brain to say, hey, buddy, that's not it. I went through the Iraq war. I did not deploy to Afghanistan or Iraq. I was in Saudi Arabia a couple times, so I spent a year there. But that's where a lot of veterans come from. That early indoctrination when they join after basic training and being around older males that they respect, right? Higher ranking individuals that they see as heroes or somebody to look up to. And a lot of them never leave that. They never have that moment where they wake up and they're like, oh, I'm not a Republican.
Or let's get rid of all those labels.
Sure.
It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. Just ask yourself, do you want your taxpayer dollars to fund public education, roads, bridges, hospitals, healthcare? What other ways can be job training, apprenticeship? Do you want your taxpayer dollars to help the police department, the fire department?
I do, but they don't.
No, a lot of people do. Then that is the person that should vote for me.
Yes.
I don't care if you're a Democrat, independent, where your political ideology is. I don't care who you voted for in 2024. If you care about your community, those people should vote for me. If you say you are siding with the war profiteers, that you're fine with our hard-earned tax dollars being used to bomb children in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iran, and elsewhere in the Middle East, then vote for Pappas, Sununu, or Brown. They will basically vote for the war profiteers. It's a very clear distinction. I offer peace, prosperity, democracy, and all of those other ones are offering death and destruction on our dime.
Yeah, I want to live in the world that you want. I want everybody to be taken care of. I want everybody to get an education if they want it. Everybody should see a doctor. Everybody should be able to have a roof over their head, food.
And it's possible. We are the richest country in the world, my friend.
Yes.
Two things are happening where we are not seeing the effects of being the richest country in the world. So many people are living such difficult lives. They're working multiple jobs. They're sleeping sometimes. Maybe they have a house, but they're drowning under property taxes. If they are not that lucky, they're couch surfing. If they're even worse off, they're on the streets or in their cars. This is real issues. They're not feeling that they are living in the richest country in the world, but we are the richest country in the world. Two things have happened over the last 50 years that have caused such immense suffering for people on the ground. One is the wealth transfer.
Yep.
Those tax breaks for the corporations and the tax breaks for the billionaires, that has taken money away from the pockets of regular folks and pushed it into the pockets of very wealthy people who don't even know what to do with all that money. The other problem is the wars, continuous war after war after war, because the military-industrial complex is immense and it's making a lot of money on our dime. So if we if folks are fine with the status quo, if folks are fine with working multiple jobs and not having enough to eat, if folks are fine with not having health care, then vote for Chris Pappas, Scott Brown, and John Sununu. Go for it. They will maintain the status quo. They will keep telling us fear-mongering stories about what's going on in the Middle East, making up lies and telling us we cannot fund your public education because we need to buy a few more bombs to kill children overseas. If you folks in New Hampshire are fine with that death and destruction and suffering right here in New Hampshire, you have your choices. But if you want your tax dollars to stay in our community, improve your lives so that one job, a full-time worker can afford food, housing, and healthcare and not have to worry about multiple jobs, then vote for me.
I can't argue with that. I know you're not embellishing. And I know that they will maintain the status quo. You've said a lot of things that are interesting, such as pointing out the Shaheens and the Sununus and how they keep New Hampshire running the way it is. It hurts my head to think that other people in New Hampshire don't want the things that you want, that I want, that so many other people want. Iran is the furthest thing from New Hampshire. There's so many things that are happening around the world.
It's actually not that far.
I know it's not that far,
Why?
But I just mean...
Because the New Hampshire National Guard, Air National Guard.
That's true.
They're being sent over. So
Yes.
It's actually our citizens, people of our state, are being sent over. So we should absolutely care.
Yeah.
Our money and our people are being sent over.
I just mean, I guess from the inner side of that, New Hampshire has an enormous median house cost. It's what, $570,000 to get into
The property taxes are...
The property taxes.
The cost of housing, everything is so bad here at the moment.
I just mean, it's kind of having all your burners on your stove and you're cooking on the induction thing on the counter and you're just like, no, this is what I'm worried about. You're like, everything over here is on fire. Don't you want to? And they don't. Not everybody. I mean, even when I went house to house, people...
Yes, absolutely. Like there was a time in my life when my family and I were struggling to survive on minimum wage. We were working multiple jobs. Do you think we were paying attention to politics? No. We were on survival mode.
Yes.
And I don't blame people. I remember those days. You're not reading the newspaper. You don't even have the luxury of reading the newspaper because that's a time that means you have free time. You're struggling to survive on several jobs, working a few hours in this job, working a few more hours in that job. And then folks who are poor are also have trouble with transportation. So we had one car for 5 people.
Oof.
So that meant you were waiting, your shift was over, but you were waiting for whoever had the car that day to pick you up and take you to your next job or to take you home. Or you were relying on buses that hardly ever came. And this is before smartphones. So you would sit in the bus stop. I would sit in the bus stop, rain, shine, snow. And you didn't know, did I miss the bus? Or does the bus do another 20 minutes? When you are living like that, how I empathize with those folks, my friend. I was there.
Oh.
If those people who are struggling are not paying attention because they have no time, they don't have the luxury to pay attention.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm going out to those folks. I'm not talking to people just through social media or newspapers, etc. I'm going into communities, to towns, to cities across New Hampshire, to grocery stores, parks, cafes, diners, everything. So because I'm talking to the people where they're at. I'm asking, I know they don't have the time and the luxury to come to and find out about me. So I'm going to them. I'm trying to represent the people. I need them to know who I am. I also need to hear from them. What are your priorities? What are your concerns? What do you want to see in the United States Senate? How are we going to fight this together?
You have been at so many events that I have been at.
Yes.
We've crossed paths, and I know that you're out there. Actually, it's probably one of the biggest compliments that I have seen about you online, whether I'm reading in Discord or a forum or a Facebook, that you are always there. Whether it's a protest or whatever it is, you show up. And that's something that's impressive because I don't think your competition holds town halls.
Nope.
Show up to safe spaces. You just seem to just go.
Because I'm an activist. I'm coming from the people.
Mm-hmm.
So for years, I was going to these rallies. For years, I was going to protests or town halls to discuss, say, how to improve our drinking water, how to get rid of PFAS. I was already there.
Right.
These are my people. And then we would say, okay, we have this issue, so maybe our elected officials at the federal government will help us. And we would go to their offices. We would have get petitions signed and take it to their offices. But we would never get a response, or they would vote against our interest. So I'm coming from the people, and the people are frustrated. I'm running because we cannot rely on these establishment Democrats, establishment Republicans anymore. So when you see me out there, it's because that's where I'm coming from. So I'm not doing this as a candidate. I'm doing this because these are my people.
So it's just natural for you.
It's natural for me. They're the, yes.
I mean, from the, we need, though.
Yes, from the peace movement, from the environmental movement, from the healthcare, universal healthcare movement, we just said it's enough. We cannot keep voting just because somebody's a Democrat. That's not enough. We need the right Democrat. And that is what I'm doing.
I think that's the only way that we take New Hampshire to the next level, not just at the federal level, but also at the state level. We need to get people in that are intelligent, that can find solutions to our problems and can make life boring again for us. Yes. I want to focus on my family. Yes. I want to focus on the later part of my life. I don't want to be in the streets protesting every weekend because, nobody else is going to do. It's hard. It's hard being a constituent and you want that good representation. And then when you finally get it put in front of you, the party says, no, that's not the one you want. You want this one.
Because the donors, because they're just controlled opposition, my friend. That's the problem. Why is Donald Trump wrecking our federal government at such a pace without any sort of control? Why is there no opposition? Hakeem Jeffries is there. Chuck Schumer is there. The Democratic Party might be in the minority, but they are there. Why are they not able to control Donald Trump? Because look at who their donors are. Hakeem Jeffries' biggest donor is AIPAC.
Yeah, it's a Venn diagram.
One of Donald Trump's biggest donors is AIPAC. Yeah. One of Chuck Schumer's biggest donor is AIPAC.
Absolutely.
Again, that's also Donald Trump's. Chris Pappas' biggest donor is AIPAC. One of Donald Trump's biggest donors is AIPAC. Why are we thinking we're going to get different results? These people will stand up to Donald Trump. How? They are answering to the same donors as Donald Trump. Let's stop lying to ourselves that these establishment Democrats, just because they have a D after their name, are any better. They are part of the same machine. And we saw this with Mamdani's election. Mamdani is an honest progressive. And this party came out for his opponent, Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. Andrew Cuomo is a disgraced politician. He resigned from his governorship of New York.
And because, if I may, he's a sexual predator.
He's a sexual predator who had to resign because he's a sexual predator. Yes.
Yes.
And yet the party was like, oh, wait, the donors want Andrew Cuomo, so we're going to support Andrew Cuomo. The donors don't want Mamdani, so they were not supporting Mamdani. But the people supported Mamdani, and the people fought back. And that's what we need in New Hampshire. Go for it, Chris Pappas. The people who are supporting Chris Pappas are corrupt themselves. Why would and I'm not talking about regular folks, like Mark Kelly, Andy Bashir, Pete Buttigieg. Look at who their donors are. They're coming out and stumping for Chris Pappas. Hillary Clinton, Jeanne Shaheen, Maggie Hassan, Maggie Goodlander. Who are their donors? They are big tech, big pharma, AI, crypto, AIPAC, other pro-Israel lobbies, other special interest groups that have nothing to do with improving our lives. So Chris Pappas can have all his little endorsement buddies. I want the people.
I think we saw that next door right here in Maine with Plattner. Schumer tried to get Mills to run, which she did.
Yes.
And then they stumped against Plattner. And then he just got the most votes a Democrat has ever gotten in Maine in the primary. That should be screaming from the hills that troubles are brewing for the establishment.
Absolutely. And the establishment, so what is their answer to that?
More money.
But that, and also make sure that Karishma does not get the platform, that she's not invited to certain events. If she is at the event, she's the last speaker after an 8-hour day. They make sure that people are asked to leave, that there's no more speakers. And then the candidates come on. And I was literally the last speaker of an 8-hour event.
I was there for a few hours. I couldn't do the whole thing.
I would have left also, my friend. Who wants to stay there for 8 hours? It's exhaustion. I just stayed there and I was like, okay, I'm the last one. I guess I have to stick around.
Yeah, and that's really hard because when you don't even have your own party supporting you,
oh God, but again, don't forget. So when we say the party, we have to be a little bit more inclusive.
That's true.
Are we talking about the base? Yes. Are we talking about the corrupt leadership? We don't. I'm calling them corrupt leadership for a reason.
Yeah.
So not having the support of corrupt leadership shows that I'm not the corrupt person, that I'm the honest person, that I'm the one with the ideas. That is actually a good thing. That's actually a status symbol.
Well, I think it's like anything. Everybody's so scared of change. And
donors are scared.
Well, yes, they are. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just regular change in anybody's life. People are always hesitant. There has to be that great push, whether it's a personal thing, switching jobs or switching senators. Mm-hmm. And I think at the other
it's an open seat, though.
It is an open seat. Mm-hmm. But that's what I mean, though. Like, I want to get rid of the status quo. I need somebody that's going to be smart, that's going to think about me and my family. I could give a shit less about AIPAC or the foreign influence and stuff. I'm looking at real people, and I'm not the only one, because every election people ask me who to vote for.
Yes.
Because they don't have time to research, but they know that I research progressives. I can cut through, a group of 6, 7, 8 individuals and tell you exactly this is the one you want. And that's important to me, to make sure that I'm right, make sure that I'm caring, and make sure that we elect good people.
And absolutely, everyone should have at least a red line.
Yeah.
So let's see. So if you say the American lawmakers should answer to the American people and not a foreign lobby, then you can say anyone who takes even $1 from AIPAC, they're done. They do not deserve your vote anymore. If you are looking at war and you're saying you don't support a genocide, and you see the lawmakers who have absolutely voted to send weapons to fuel a genocide, then that should be your red line. Everyone needs to have a red line.
And also if they vote against reining in the war powers too.
Oh, good. Yes, of course. So there's so many ways for every individual to decide what matters to them. And I know foreign policy, like you said, Iran is farthest from the mind for many people, but it's also because foreign policy tends to be like, well, it's out there, it's not really impacting me. But my friends, it is impacting you, because that money out there for war is money not in our pockets, not in our communities, not in our towns, our cities. So people should care about foreign policy, because foreign policy should be just as boring, like you said. It should be based on national security, national interest, not on war profiteering, and definitely not on the whims of a foreign genocidal government.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do fully understand the impact of the Iran war. A matter of fact, so many previous other presidents also understood that they should not do this. We had to wait for somebody that didn't have an understanding of the world to say, oh, yeah, you want me to bomb?
Plain stupid and corrupt. And yes. And also don't forget that earlier this year, there was something else that was on the news that he needed to distract us from, the Epstein files.
Yeah, absolutely.
Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Donald Trump does not want people to talk about the Epstein files.
I wish that everybody would be talking about that.
So the people of Iran are basically paying the price for a pedophile to cover up his crimes.
Yes.
And the American taxpayers are funding this distraction to cover up a pedophile.
You know what's so frustrating is watching the UK actually deal with theirs.
A little bit.
I mean, not, but it's more than what we're getting.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, their reward for doing what they've done is being elected to the president of the United States and many other offices. Yes. This is not an isolated issue. This behavior, the Epstein files. They're throughout our government.
Oh, God, yes.
And there are so many people in there.
Yes, that's why we call them the Epstein class.
Yes.
Because that includes many billionaires. Not every billionaire is in the Epstein class, but billionaires, multimillionaires, corporations, politicians. So, for example, Dean Kamen of New Hampshire, he went to the Epstein Island. I mean, you just have to go to the Department of Justice website, look up the Epstein files, and just use the search bar to find a lot of the communication. You see what Dean Kamen was doing. So Dean Kamen is most probably a pedophile. And yet, where's the investigation? If he has not committed any crime, let's clear up his name.
Right.
If he has committed a crime, then he should be jailed.
And I'll be clear, this is all alleged that we're talking
Yes.
about
Okay.
until
Fine. Alleged
until the
pedophile.
government, right?
Okay. The folks who went to Epstein's Island, where little girls were running around,
Yes.
they're alleged pedophiles. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Or alleged supporters of pedophiles.
I think that there's a mountain of evidence just to
Yes.
be certain,
Yes.
but I also recognize
We are saying
that-
alleged.
that
alleged.
we are innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
I still live in America with
Absolutely fine. But when you are let's look at Dean Kamen. Many of the boards that he's on, they said you have to resign or they let him go.
Yep.
So what does that mean? If he's an innocent man, isn't that wrong?
Yeah, right. You wouldn't resign if you were innocent.
If he's guilty, is that the worst that we can do to somebody who might have committed pedophilia? That you just say, sorry, you cannot serve on our board? So it's two things. Is he guilty? And if he's guilty, then where is the investigation? Let's have a real investigation. Where's the prosecution? Where's the conviction? And if he's innocent, then isn't it wrong that they're making him leave all these boards? So both possible. How do we find this? We have to start investigating. Why isn't Attorney General Vermella of New Hampshire doing an investigation? Why? Because Dean Kamen has paid to Kelly Ayotte, to the Sununus, to Pappas, to Hassan. See, a lot of the billionaires and the multimillionaires, they know to play both sides. That's why they get support from both parties. That is wrong.
Yes.
And that's the Epstein class of politicians of New Hampshire. Includes Pappas, Hassan, Shaheen, Sununu, Ayotte, Vermella, all of them. We have to get rid of all of them. We have to clean house in New Hampshire.
100%. I mean, it's going to take all of the people to come in
yes.
and say, we need to get this done.
If children don't matter to you, then what is your red line? If
Right.
you are saying you're fine with AIPAC money, if you're saying fine with genocide, are you also saying fine to pedophiles getting away? I mean, this is a two-tier justice system, my friend. Not that Epstein committed crimes is known, that many people were part of this crime, this international crime syndicate is known. There's several thousand little girls were raped. This is known. How many people have been arrested and convicted other than
only
Maxwell?
Ghislaine?
That was it. That was it. Just one. So then tell me if there's a two-tier system in this country or not.
Oh, the 100%. So I was born in 1978. You can do the math. Throughout the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, all the whole time that I've been alive, one of the worst things you could be called is a pedophile. And yet today, there's plenty of men my age and around that look the other way. I have 3 daughters, and I would kill over this. If I was in that situation, I couldn't even imagine watching one of my children endure the horrificness of some of the stories that we have read from the files themselves. And there's 3 million files that
and many of them are
out.
redacted, so you can't even figure it out. But yes, of what you can figure out, it's horrific. And there's so much that is not being released. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's awful.
It's awful.
And I hope that we will send people to our government that will correct this.
Yes.
That will, I want to say a lot of things at once. It's just so hard to define my anger in what's in those files. And the fact that those men and women that enabled it are leading our country.
Yes.
Are ambassadors of America that are, this should be one of the most shameful things in our American history. And I could give a lot of things that should be on that list, but this should be at the top.
And that is why they're distracting us with the reflecting pool. They're distracting us with Iran war. They're distracting us with gas. Those are real issues.
Yes.
But we should say, let's hold off on all of these. Let's investigate crimes against children. Let's prosecute criminals who may have committed crimes against children. That should be the top news.
Yes.
Not the reflecting pool.
No, I think I
which
think
is
all those are
issues, but
yes.
they should not be the headline. Headline should be Epstein file, war profiteering, big money in politics, AIPAC buying our politicians. That should be what is going on. And look what happened. The two people who led the fight against in releasing the Epstein file, one was Ro Khanna, representative from California. The other person was Thomas Massie, representative from Kentucky. Representative Massey's primary just happened.
Yep.
Millions of dollars were spent to unseat him. This was because he stood up against the Epstein class.
Oh, absolutely. But
This
I don't
is because
think
he stood
hear
up
from
against
him.
AIPAC.
Yeah.
But that's what will happen in New Hampshire, my friends. Now, if you are fine with pedophilia, sit back. You don't have to worry about the current politics. Pappas, Sununu, one of them will move forward. If you're fine with war profiteering, sit back, do your little things and whatever it is you need to do. Pappas or Sununu will move forward. But if you want people who have committed crimes against children to be held accountable, then you should vote for me. If you want to stop war profiteering, you should vote for me. If you want someone who's answering to the people and not to the donors, then you have to vote for me. I am running a campaign based on honesty, integrity, and accountability. That is exactly what I'm doing right now and what I will do in the U.S. Senate.
I want that. I want that through and through. While we're on the topic of accountability, though, can we talk about the Supreme Court just for a moment?
Yeah, go for it.
Because
What a mess.
I'm actually surprised up to this point that they have not tried to replace Alito and Thomas to get a fresh nut in there, if you will, a crazy person. Where do you sit on expanding the court? How do we fix this? Do we impeach? Do we expand? What is what's the most direct way to fix this?
Right. So if you just expand, then you're just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
What we need are strong ethics, rules, and regulations, and we need to enforce it. There's more ethics rules that are enforced on the lower court judges than on the Supreme Court. The lower court judges cannot accept a lunch, $25 lunch, without having to report it. I think there's like some sort of a cutoff. They cannot accept trips paid by others. They have to report everything. That is good. We want the judges to stay as neutral as possible. We want the judges to answer to the people, follow the Constitution, not be like who threw lavish parties for them, who gave them an RV, who flew them on a jet to Alaska for a hunting trip. Those are really, really concerning. So the American people should say, you want your Supreme Court judges to remain neutral, not beholden to their donors, not to accept lavish gifts, not to be corrupt. And so we need strong ethics rules, and then we have to enforce it. And if anyone breaks those rules, they should be impeached. Absolutely.
That's a strong. I like that because I am so nervous. You can fix everything else. You can fix the White House. You can fix Congress. You can fix so many things, but if we don't fix the Supreme Court. And
it's the Heritage Foundation keeps a list of judges that have basically kissed the ring.
Yeah, they have that list as soon as there's a
vacancy. They're like, oh, there you go, you're next. Yes.
And it's
these are not necessarily a representative of the people. They don't necessarily have the best interest in of the American people in mind. They're not necessarily following the Constitution. So yeah, it's a really scary story.
Yeah, I'm so scared of them being able to put more seats on it. I think
the Donald Trump, my God.
Yeah, I mean, he got
make
3
it even
seats
worse
in his first term.
God.
I mean, we really screwed ourselves not having RGB retire and allow Obama to appoint, and then Mitch McConnell as well. Oh, this is so many bad
2
things.
seats were stolen.
Yeah, it's horrible because we have been punished as people. You know, and I know that some people root for the Republicans, some root for the Democrats. I just root for the Americans.
I do too.
Right?
Exactly. We're like you said the other day, or sorry, not the other day, just a while ago.
Yeah.
What do people want? They just want a home, a safe place to live. They just want food in the fridge. They want a happy family. They want public education, well-funded public education so their kids can attend the school. They want trade schools to be accessible and affordable. They want leisure time to relax and read a book, a newspaper, go for a walk. They want to access healthcare, see a physician when they have any trouble. They want to be able to buy medicine, or at least be able to get medicine for free or have very little copay. That's all people want.
I would think that New Hampshire people would want more of that because unlike other states around us, we're kind of an island, not just in like cannabis, but also in healthcare, also in schooling. We have 1.4 million people. They're spread out, but mostly below Concord, and upstate is a lot less. So you would think that more people here would, especially an aging population, would want more hospitals, more doctors, more specialists. So I'm really hoping that this year the people really listen to these words and really understand what they need, what their kids need. I don't want my kids to leave New Hampshire. I don't want them to have to go to another state to have a life. I had kids for a reason. I love them. I want to be around them. And I hope the feeling's mutual, of course. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think New Hampshire deserves this. We deserve better. I was pulling up the voting record of Chris Pappas the other night because I was trying to do some research and try to understand, like, what are we about to do here? And I was amazed because somebody had put a graph, basically, with all the dots of where every Democrat is in the House.
Yes.
And there was just a few dots in the middle between Democrat and Republican. And Chris Pappas was right there in the dead center. If I'm not mistaken, he voted with Democrats 54% of the time, and the rest was Republicans. And I was amazed at how awful of a record that is.
Yes.
And I felt the same way about Shaheen. I still feel the same way about Hassan. I just don't think that they did a good job overall as governors. I don't think that they've represented New Hampshire well. I have written them several times over bad votes that they've done, such as healthcare. I'm against the censorship of other Democrats. If you're a Democrat voting for the censorship of other Democrats, you better have a really good reason. And there was two votes for censoring Democrats that there was no reason for it. It was just Republicans wanted it, and yet he voted for it.
He's
it's frustrating.
That's the weird thing about for Democrats to say he's a Democrat. I mean, just because he has a D after his name, so what?
No, it's weirder that Elizabeth Warren endorsed him as a progressive.
It's funny. Yeah,
that to me is mind-numbing that she would endorse Plattner and Chris Pappas because they couldn't be more different. They just couldn't. And one's a progressive and one's absolutely not.
He's a war hawk. Chris Pappas is a war hawk. And I want
to be clear because I know him personally and I don't have an issue with him personally.
But we're talking about him as a legislator.
Yes.
We are not talking about...
But I want people to know that I'm not,
so, And that is going to be fair. When I go to the Senate, talk about me based on my votes.
I will.
Absolutely.
100%.
Put me on that scatter plot and see where I stand. Am I serving the people or am I serving the donors? Am I taking money from the people or am I taking money from the donors? Absolutely talk about me as a legislator and tell me where I stand and hold me to it. So when I'm talking about Chris Pappas, we are all public figures now.
Yes.
There's our job is now I want to represent the people. He has been supposedly sent to represent the people. His legislative record is absolutely open for discussion.
Yep. I had no problem accessing all of it.
And we are going to discuss it.
Yeah.
So if he votes to send weapons to Israel to fuel a genocide, what am I supposed to call him? Warmonger? I think that's a fair word. War profiteer? Because he's getting payback from AIPAC for his votes. Yes, then he's also a war profiteer. Then he also votes against humanitarian aid to Gaza in the middle of a starvation campaign.
Yeah, I think they're all wrong.
He voted to starve children. What do you want me to call this person?
Yeah.
I don't care whether you want to have a beer with him or not. That's a different story.
Right.
We're talking about Chris Pappas as a legislator. We should also talk about John Sununu as a legislator. He was there for 6 years in the Senate. We should talk about Scott Brown's time in the Senate. None of them voted in the interest of the American people. They were constantly voting in the interest of their donors.
Yeah. And I would expect that. I don't think that we're going to get anything good out of Brown or Sununu. We're going to get more of the same, if not more of the, worse.
We'll get Trump. Trump will get more support.
Yeah.
I mean, look at them. They're brown nosing constantly. Like, who can be more in?
I think the last thing the state needs is another Sununu.
That is for sure. Please, state. They have made enough money. They can live without having to work a single day in their life for the next few generations. That family has made so much money. Help them retire. Let them go enjoy their millions.
I wish more people would do that. If you make your rich, your riches.
I mean, first of all, it was wrong.
Oh, no, I know it's wrong. But
Yeah.
they would do more good by disappearing.
Go to Azerbaijan, go to wherever ski resorts, whatever you've
Just
bought.
anywhere.
Go
Anywhere
have leisurely,
but Congress.
Yeah, buy a big yacht and sail away into the Mediterranean. Go do whatever you want. Same with Chris Pappas. He's been there 4 terms. Why? If you have not been able to solve the problems that we are facing, if Donald Trump has gotten stronger while you're there, if Donald Trump came back a second time while you were representative, then what exactly are you offering us? After I launched my campaign, I started to talk. My whole platform is to get big money out of politics because we cannot have the things we need until the donor class we take away the power from the donor class. So we cannot fix the public education crisis or the healthcare crisis or the housing crisis until we get them out. So I'm on the board of Open Democracy Action. It's an organization that was founded by Granny D. Haddock. We have been trying to get big money out of politics. So I'm not doing this as a candidate. I've been working on this as a private citizen.
Yeah.
So, and I understand the impact of big money. So that has been a very strong part of my policy platform. After I launched, Chris Pappas starts to talk about he's getting big money out of politics. If Chris Pappas wants to take big money out of politics, he has to resign because he is big money in politics. And so he's basically lying about his record. He cannot say he is against big money when he is part of that problem. And so
I want to say the other night I saw him doing an interview and they asked him if he takes PAC money and he said no.
I think, okay, so I want to be clear about this. He takes PAC money. He does not take directly corporate PAC money. And I think they were talking about corporate PACs.
Yes.
Okay, but that's another story, which I need people to understand. Yes, if you look at Chris Pappas's record, you will see corporate PAC money is 0. But this is another part of this game. How do they do this? The corporate PACs donate directly to the leadership PACs, to Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. Then they give money from the leadership PACs, millions of dollars to their candidates. So
Chris Pappas, just laundering.
It's a money laundering scheme. And both parties do it. Republicans do it. Democrats do it. So Chuck Schumer just gave Chris Pappas $10.2 million. That was money coming from corporate PACs, dark sources. If you try to find out who gives money to Chuck Schumer and his leadership PAC, because I know how to do research, I'm part of Open Democracy Action. A lot of these are dark sources. We don't know who they are. Some of them are very open, but some of them are dark. Chuck Schumer is collecting all this money and then putting it into whoever, like Janet Mills or Chris Pappas, whoever he wants to support. So Chris Pappas can say, I don't take corporate PAC money. But dude, you're indirectly taking corporate PAC money. You're just money laundering scheme. That is nefarious.
It's just a giant shell game.
It's a shell game. And the Republicans do it. So people who are listening, my friends, if you want actual representation, then why are we allowing this? If any candidate takes a single dollar from corporate PACs, whether directly or indirectly, from AIPAC, indirectly or directly, or any kind of big tech, big oil, they are no longer answering to the people. They do not deserve your vote. That should end a politician's career.
I fully agree on that. I mean, again, I really want to send people that care about myself and my family and that will do good things for my community.
Yes.
Just showing up and smiling and then going to Washington and voting against your community is those days have to be over.
That days, yeah.
Right? Like
yes.
I need somebody that's real. Like I can actually shake your hand. You're somebody, and same for him, but like I think that we should give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
That progressive feelings, progressive ideas, policy, progressive everything.
And
needs
folks who
to
like
find
it,
a way.
yes, and it's a wave. This is the year for the progressives. And folks who like Mamdani, look at my platform, because Mamdani's like a brother from another mother, because he's brown Muslim immigrant. I'm a brown Muslim immigrant.
Yeah, I've looked at a lot of your stuff, his stuff. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Go for it.
Out of all the politicians that have ever existed, maybe exist now, like who do you get inspiration from?
Okay, so that's alive or dead? Anything?
Anything.
Okay.
I'm just wondering,
So
like,
what
where
are the
you
things,
come from?
Yes. So what are the most important aspects of a politician for me? One is, are they compassionate? Do they care? Do they have ideas about how to help us? And the third is, will they fight for us? So those are the three things that I look for: compassion, bold ideas, and a fighter. So if I look at that, I would say FDR, I would say Eisenhower, JFK. And if I wanted to go into more a non-politician, I would say Frances Perkins. She was the first female cabinet secretary. She was also the Secretary of Labor under FDR. She was amazing.
FDR is a powerful era to pull from.
Yes.
And
he was a fighter. He was
a
feisty,
big name.
man.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like asking that question sometimes just to kind of gauge somebody where they pull their inspiration from, because I think it says a lot about somebody, where they look up to. So it's fascinating for you if however we get you to the U.S. Senate. Do you have ideas of maybe how long you want to be there for?
Oh, that's a good point. Yes, we need term limits. Yes,
Yeah.
A U.S. senator should serve no more than 2 terms.
So 12 years total.
12 years. That's it. 2 terms. That's it. And in the House, you should not serve more than 3 terms. If you have not been able to fix a problem, or even if you have been able to fix a problem, thank you for your service. Go back to whatever you were doing before. Go find a new career. Go sail away. But this is done. This kind of year after year after year, this incumbency, the power of the incumbency, no matter how corrupt they are, the donors love them, therefore they'll come back. That has to stop. Republicans, independents, and Democrats have to stop voting for the same names over and over again and expecting different results. So we need a term limit. Unfortunately, we can't change the Constitution, but we can absolutely decide for ourselves what we want. So in the House, no more than 3 terms. In the Senate, no more than 2 terms. So Chris Pappas says, thank you for your service. Now go back to your family business.
Yeah, and I think that would be fine. What about age limits?
I'm not. So if somebody gets elected, age should matter. Why are folks who are in their 70s, 80s, even 90s serving, like Grassley's 90s? That in itself, I don't know if I necessarily will pick on this. If somebody is a wonderful person and they want to be able to serve, and that's for the people, and they've never served in the past, and they don't take big money, and they're compassionate, sure, go ahead. But again, that term limit should stay. So
I just wanted to see how you saw the difference between those two things.
Yeah. No, for me, most important is, are you honest? Are you answering to the people? And will you fight for the people? That's it, regardless of what your age is, and regardless of whether you have an R or a D or an I after your name.
This world would be so different if people just gauged it like that. I'm going to ask you another question too, kind of along the same similar things. Do you think a lot about our history in America? And I think a lot about this, and I've said this before. So from my point of view, I think 1980, basically when Reagan took office, was a very defining moment. And you could argue that there's lots of defining moments, but that one in particular was devastating for the United States long term. Electing Ronald Reagan, their savior, their father, whatever you want to call
Christian evangelical Christians had a lot to do with it.
Yes. He was able to convince enough Americans to vote for him. Do you have a defining moment that you think about in American history that got us to where we are today? Or nah?
I don't know if a specific defining moment, but I do use that transition in a way to talk about the Democratic Party. So I am an FDR Democrat.
Okay.
And FDR did amazing things for this country.
Yeah.
Things that we take for granted came from the Democratic Party, whether it was FDR or LBJ. What folks don't understand is the Democratic Party gave us Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment insurance, 8-hour workday, 40-hour work week, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act. That's the party that we need back, not this wimpy donor class that's just controlled opposition.
Yeah.
That is so, but why are we not like that? And that is actually the cutoff comes around the time of Reagan. So the way I talk about it is FDR fought for the working families. FDR fought for labor unions. FDR basically regulated the Wall Street. And what did we see in return? That the middle class boomed in the 60s, 70s. One job was enough to afford a house, a car or 2 cars. Public education was well funded. Even universities were well funded. So it did not break the bank. That was even a factory job gave you that much. Then comes Reagan, and he promises us trickle-down economics. He starts to give the tax breaks to the rich. He starts attacking the labor unions. He starts to deregulate Wall Street, the exact opposite of what FDR did. And he promises people that if you give tax breaks to the millionaires, it will trickle down. Why not give tax breaks to the people directly? Why is this indirect game? What a lie. We're still waiting for those tax breaks to trickle down, and they haven't. If anything, that was the big transition, like you said. But what happened to the Democratic Party? Over the last 50 years, as the Republican Party shifted further right away from serving the people, the Democratic Party should have stayed true to the FDR core, to the progressive base. Instead, we kept electing people who were just better than some really bad Republicans. Being better than a pedophile is really not something we need to aspire to. We have to aspire to offer the greater good to the people of this country. That's what we need to go back to.
I just want to be seen as a beacon of goodness again.
Yes.
You know, the United States has done a lot of powerful things.
Amazing.
And I'm proud to be an American.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed right now in what our government represents, but I would love to get back there.
I want to be, yes. And sometimes I talk about this, like the last few weeks, we saw 2 examples, the worst of America and the best of America. The worst was Donald Trump taking us into a war with Iran based on basically faulty intelligence information coming from a foreign genocidal government. And what is the end result? 15 U.S. service members have died. Over 300 have been injured. Thousands of people have been killed in Iran. Billions of our tax dollars have been spent. That is the worst of America. And the best of America at this moment is the Artemis mission.
Yes.
What a great mission. Wow. We shot 4 people up to the space. They circled the moon. They came back safe and sound. That's where our energy should be going, to science, to technology, to exploration, to education, to research, to improve our lives, to improve what we know as mankind, as humankind. That's what we should be doing. And that is what I want our country to go back to.
Those are noble ideas. The thought that we can develop something like an mRNA shot and then cure cancer, cure herpes, cure flu. It's so many pervasive things, right?
We should be the leader in science, technology, medicine of this world.
You would think.
But because the war profiteers are making money from dropping bombs, we have to take away the power from the war profiteers.
In the last last year and a half, America has lost well over 10,000 PhDs. That is such an enormous... You have a PhD.
I do.
You know what it's like to go and get a PhD. Can you imagine 10,000 of your colleagues graduating and leaving and bringing that science and medicine to somewhere else? To me, I am so scared as an American for that.
Of course. I mean, NIH funded my PhD. NIH funded my postdoc. NIH is being gutted. We're impacting a whole generation of scientists as for people to receive a degree, to people to be involved in research, for people to be involved in discovery and helping others. But it's the decision of the American people. If they want same old, where money is going for war and money is going to the billionaires who don't even know how to spend that money, my friend.
And they never will.
And they never will. And I want to give people an understanding that we're not talking about people's success. We're not talking about that we are against it.
No, I'm fine with people being successful.
Absolutely. We're talking people who don't even know what to do with this money. So we, of course, hear about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg, and they have hundreds of billions of dollars, like $700 billion or $800 billion. Just to give you an idea what a billionaire is, I'm going to tell you the story of somebody who has about $20 billion. So that's a lot of money, but that's nothing compared to these other guys. That man who has $20 billion owns 7,000 cars, 7,000 luxury vehicles. Even if he drove one every day, he cannot use up all his vehicles. That's the power of money. That's the purchasing power of $1 billion. So don't be afraid to tax those people. They have more than enough. These people are billionaires are buying yachts. Billionaires are buying private jets and islands. They're shooting themselves to space for a joyride, a 60-second joyride, and then coming back. They still have billions more to spend. So do not be afraid to tax the billionaires, because what is happening is the wealth transfer is hurting our communities. It's putting the pressure on people with regular jobs, whether it's paying for Social Security. The billionaires are barely paying into it. It's the regular folks who are working a 9-to-5 job that is paying for it.
Yes, and I hope that we go back to the 1950s tax rate, 90% tax rate on a billionaire. This is where I actually really like what AOC has said in regards to this. You cannot make $1 billion. A billionaire did not earn that. Mm-hmm. They got it off of corruption,
exploitation,
off the exploitation. Right, I was gonna say off the backs of workers. Yes.
And why do we not? We need to have a revolution.
Almost, but the problem is nobody can afford to do one. And that's on purpose.
Because, we're so tired. Yes.
Right. If you can't afford childcare and you have to stay home you can't protest.
Yes. You don't have time for a revolution.
And I think that's probably
we need to reclaim our power, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Bernie Sanders is throwing up some legislation right now to give $7 trillion worth of AI to the American people so that we are part ownership. We suffered a data center threat in Nottingham. Mm-hmm. Is it Nottingham?
It's Nottingham.
Yeah, it is Nottingham. Mm-hmm. I'm still not used to all the names of the towns. And then, of course, we had the Merrimack thing, too. But
that was the ICE detention.
ICE detention. And we didn't cover a lot about that. Maybe we can just before we wrap up. Okay. But AI data centers, where do you sit on that? Do you see that as a positive or negative? Or?
So, all of us are benefiting from data centers. AI data centers are different from the regular data centers. So when you are using Google for the last 10 years, 20 years, you're actually using information that is being processed at data centers. AI data centers are taking us to another level. These AI technology is extremely powerful. It can be a force for good, but it can be force for bad. But these AI data centers use up a lot of land, a lot of water, and a lot of electricity. Those are things that we have to understand. The communities that have basically allowed a data center to open, not because the people wanted it, because the legislators allowed it, they're seeing that the quality of life in that area has gone down because the data centers are sometimes taking up several hundred acres. They are bringing up their groundwater. A lot of folks, if they turn on their faucets now, brown water comes in. The electricity prices have gone up. So folks who are already struggling to make ends meet now are seeing higher prices of electricity. And then the data centers are promised jobs, but it's very short term because it's just for the construction. But once it's up and running, they don't need a lot of people there because they just need a few technicians and a few security guards. That's really it.
Yep.
So it's not like a long-term promise of prosperity in that area. And so folks should understand it. But the other thing that happens is the hum of these data centers, folks who even within a few miles of it cannot sleep. They are putting mattresses against their windows. Their property prices have dropped because nobody else wants to buy their houses. This is actually concerning. So whether you're concerned about environmental damage, you should really understand the AI data centers are going to be a huge impact, or your groundwater, or your quality of life, or your space for leisure and birds and flora and fauna, then you should be absolutely concerned. The other reason people should be concerned is what exactly is the technology being used for? If it's used for science and technology and medicine, that is good use of the AI data centers. But the reason we have so many is not for science and technology or to improve our lives. It's actually being used for mass surveillance and warfare.
Yeah.
That is why we should be concerned. So those AI data centers are helping these drop bombs in Gaza. Gaza was actually a test ground for updating their software to learn, for the AI technology to learn how to quickly hit hospitals and mosques and churches and schools and neighborhoods with precision without having to use human power. They were being programmed, and that's how they were learning. And now it's being used in Lebanon. We cannot use. What are we doing? We are absolutely putting these warehouses in our communities that are hurting our communities and for reasons that are nefarious. Mass surveillance, we are the live free or die state. Why would we want anyone to spy on us? There are plate readers, those flock cameras,
Yep.
and they're supposed to read it for tolling purposes, not to monitor where we're going. The folks who are answering to these big tech corporations in crypto and AI, these politicians will tell you, well, this is about public safety.
Yep.
Don't you want us to read your plates because then we can track those bad guys? Bad guys will be tracked by law and order system. Bad guys should not be tracked by mass surveillance, because mass surveillance is another way misinformation is being and fear mongering is being used to basically allow make us look the other way, as our privacy is being impacted. So folks, if you're a libertarian, Republican, independent, Democrat out there, you should be very concerned about mass surveillance, and you should absolutely reject what Donald Trump is doing,
Yep.
what Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are doing to basically take away, to monitor us. You should absolutely vote against those politicians from both parties that are going to answer to crypto or AI or big tech, because our privacy it's about civil liberties. And if we care about live free or die, we should absolutely care about not being surveilled.
I'm so afraid that the elite in Silicon Valley, they're never given enough, right?
Like greed is endless.
Right. They got us with social media. They sucked up all our data. They sold it to data brokers. They, just to show us ads.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like AI is just the next level of that. Like, okay, so now we've already controlled you a little bit. We're making tons of money off your data and showing you ads.
They have our social security information. They have our tax information because, of course, Doge went into the IRS. Doge went into the Social Security Administration.
Yeah, and
now they have information from many states on our voting records.
Yeah, and you can start putting a profile of somebody together really easily.
Think about that. If you folks who are in New Hampshire, think about that. How much information has been given to Doge and Elon Musk and the tech bros? That is our private information.
It scares me though. I'll use a web browser as an example. If you've ever heard of a digital fingerprint. So basically, let's say you're using Firefox browser just to, check your Facebook or whatever. Every one of those extensions that you put on your browser is an identifying unique thing, because somebody will have a certain set of extensions, and over time you can start painting a picture and start coalescing that data to figure out like, oh, where does that person go see the doctor? Where does that person go shop? Where does that person? And it's the same thing. Like I said, they got most of our information, but now it's ratcheting up because that's not enough. I also need to put you out of a job. I also need all of the data, not just some of it. And it's a constant Silicon Valley takeover, it seems like. Do we have any shot whatsoever from a government standpoint to rein that in as well? I mean, obviously taxing the rich would be a great start, right? To get almost $1 trillion from Zuck back and Elon and all that. I just
You
think
need
that this is devastating.
lawmakers
Yes.
who are not taking money from crypto, who are not taking money from AI technology, who are not taking money from big tech.
Yeah.
And at the moment, Brown, Pappas, and Sununu are in their pockets.
I know
so it's a very simple choice. New Hampshire, I mean, it's not like you don't have a choice.
Right. Well, to most people, they don't think they have a choice because they haven't heard your name.
Yes.
I don't know
yes,
how.
This is, of course, well, this is what happens. In order to get the name out, okay, it can be years and years of being in the political arena and people get to know your name. But the other way that people get their name out very fast is through digital ads, TV ads, yard signs. Let's see what else. Mailers.
Yep, mailers.
Okay. Those are extremely expensive.
Yes.
I'm funded by regular folks. I get $20 from someone on Social Security. I get $5 from a college student. I don't have millions of dollars of blood money or tech money or AI money or crypto money or AIPAC money to spend on all of this. So folks, I'm relying on you. If you care about having a free and fair primary, if you want to send a senator that'll answer to the people and not the big money, then learn about me, Karishma Manzur. Go to my website, karishmaforsenate.com. Find out who I am. And if you like what you see, then help spread the message. Because that is way more powerful than the TV ads and the mailers. Folks can talk to their coworkers, their neighbors, their family, their friends. Spread the message that there is a really good option this year in 2026. That the folks don't have to settle for the lesser of two evils. They can absolutely vote for the greater good.
Yeah, and I'm going to put all those links in the description so people can just click on them and learn more.
I need the help of the community because social media will only do so much. I need the help of the community to help spread the words. Lots of folks are writing letters to the editors. I've never even met some of these folks. Maybe they've met me at a rally or a town hall. I don't. Some folks are writing op-eds. That is fantastic. I mean, This is really grassroots. Folks are saying, I care about this platform because this is what I want. Therefore, I'm going to support it. Canvassing, phone banking, there's so many ways to help us.
Yeah, and I support all of that. And I want to say, one, thank you for coming to do this with me. I appreciate that. I also want to give a little bit of a shout out to NH Talk. I don't do this a whole lot, but I know several members from there, and they're extremely passionate about you and your message and what you're going to bring to the table. And I know that they're going to rally around you and hopefully lift your name up a little bit so we have a shot at this. We can't do it without passionate people. We cannot do it without the community or people that are willing to run and willing to do the hard lift, So I'm super appreciative. Is there anything else that I've left out?
I think we had a wonderful conversation.
I think so too.
Thanks, Adam.
I've enjoyed this so much. So thank you. And I hope everybody else enjoys this too.